How can this offshore world exist? Who maintains it? Who keeps it all running and makes sure that the inhabitants get the best advice? Who builds the financial structure and monitors the capital flows? To answer that question, we take you to the English countryside.
There is a whole world out there of people who are letting tax havens operate. They are really three types of people. There are bankers, there are lawyers, and there are accountants. Together, we have called them the Pinstripe Mafia. Why? Well, because they look remarkably like me. They are probably grey-haired at the top of the tree. They are white, they are probably male, and they are professionally qualified. They probably speak English, and they quite possibly went to a British university. Most of them will be foreigners to those places. If tax havens are going to be used by wealthy people, and if it's going to be used by multinational companies, then they need to be serviced by familiar advisors. And the familiar advisors are always going to be the big four firms of accountants: PricewaterhouseCoopers, KPMG, Ernst & Young, Deloitte. They are the constant feature of every tax haven, in fact. Without one of those firms, or maybe all of those firms being present, you really will not have a tax haven. But you'll find all the familiar names of banks, whether they are British or they are Dutch or they are French or they are US. So Citigroup will be virtually everywhere. Deutsche will be virtually everywhere. So consistently the same accountants, consistently the same banks, and always lawyers to support them. Without those three things, you can't really have a tax haven. The language that is used offshore is very careful. So we will find tax minimization. We will find neutral taxation. I love the phrase that we're looking for neutral taxation. It actually means no tax, by the way. So neutral tax means no tax. But we couldn't say no tax because that seems, well, a little unseemly, doesn't it? You know, that's, how can we not pay tax? So we call it neutral. We will talk about tax optimization. Well, tax optimization means no tax again. Let's be clear, that's what it means. But all of this jargon is designed to make everybody feel comfortable, as though they are managing an environment and making choices that are legitimate and proper. Actually, they're trying to get round the law. But of course, that's the last thing that anybody will say.
The lawyers, bankers, accountants, and millionaires don't seem to belong anywhere, but they are constantly on the move between their various investments in real estate, always sheltered and pleasantly located in a world that is not limited to London, New York, or Monaco. Which then are these centres, zones, and islands that the inhabitants of the offshore world move around in, and what do they actually look like?
The zone becomes a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. It can't be stopped, a kind of self-perpetuating agent of extra-state territory. And the free zones are facilitating capital movements because they provide incentives that help you shelter some of the taxes and allow you to own property, allow you to have cheap labor. And the laws for each of these zones are different. For instance, in Dubai Media City, there's free speech, because ABC and NBC and all of you, they're headquartered there. So you can say things which you can't say right outside the gate. The world is kind of addicted to the incentives that go with the zone. So now everything is in the zone, and it's meant to make into the zone a place where a corporate family would see a home there.
But let's look at a less exotic location. Here, for example, at the next stop on our global tax-free tour. Bishop's Avenue in London, once called Millionaires Row, it has recently been renamed Billionaires Row.
It's an internal world going on. It's a sort of world in itself. It's an inside, secret kind of realm.
So, if I would be a billionaire and I don't want to pay tax, what do I do?
If you're a billionaire, you don't have any contact with money at all. You may have some special issued black credit card that you can only use in an ATM in Monaco or something. But what you do is rather like the way that the criminal erases his traces. You make yourself invisible. You don't have any contact with money. This is all happening behind the scenes. Nothing has got your name on it. Yeah? You just deal with cash. You don't need to spend any money. You haven't come in any contact with it at all.
But if I want to buy my Ferrari?
You want to buy your Ferrari? Well, I don't think you're going to be doing it yourself. You're going to be going to a leasing company that's in Cayman Islands and who are going to be organising it for you. When you wake up in the morning, it's probably just outside your house. I mean, you want to disappear. If you want to, I mean, this is what you have to become almost invisible. And this is the way that you can protect yourself and keep the financial police or the tax man or the media off your back. You become a sort of non-person. You become this offshore, ghostly spirit, rather like Hamlet's father.
This is an incredibly concentrated industry. 0.14% of the world's population, less than 10 million people, control about 95% of the offshore private wealth. They're citizens of nowhere. In the interests of this underlying group at the very top of the global economic order that has come to have more influence than ever in the last 20 years under the impact of globalization, their interests, I think, are fundamentally at odds with the interests of the rest of us in shared tax institutions, in shared bank regulation institutions across borders. They've been able to game this nation-state system for their own purposes.
But do the same laws and regulations apply to this financial shadow world as to our world, in which the tax form drops through the letterbox on a regular basis? To find out, our tour takes us to Eva Joly. When she was a judge, she led the successful investigation into a French corruption scandal. Her life was repeatedly threatened. Now an EU parliamentarian, she's investigating the effects of the 1 trillion euros, that's 1,000 billion, in tax revenue that the EU annually misses out on.
La question de savoir si c'est légal ou pas légal, ce n'est pas suffisant parce qu'il y a toute la notion d'abus de droit et l'utilisation intensive faite par les multinationales des paradis fiscaux à l'apparence de la légalité, mais dans beaucoup de cas, en réalité, s'il y avait une enquête et si les services fiscaux étaient outillés pour chercher vraiment, on s'apercevrait qu'ils tomberont sous la notion d'abus de droit, donc ça serait illégal. Et c'est là où on voit le cœur du mécanisme qui consiste à transférer ce qui aurait dû être des ressources publiques du monde entier, mais essentiellement des pays en voie de développement, vers des actionnaires privés. C'est le colonialisme poursuivi par d'autres moyens.
The tour takes us to Kenya to see what the consequences of the financial shadow world are for the African continent. We meet Johannes Chiminia and his colleagues, who are investigating the way the multinationals active in Africa structure their accounts so as to pay as little tax as possible.
The basic registration of the company. We have one employee in the Netherlands. There is a red flag. They don't know we are doing this, because if they know, they will definitely cover the loopholes.
Johannes Chiminia shows us that a tax haven does not necessarily include a palm beach by taking us to one of Kenya's 65 special economic zones.
Right now we are in Athi River, where the Athi River export processing zone is domiciled. It is like an enclosed, a bonded area where companies, manufacturers are domiciled, and they do their manufacturing inside, and all the products they manufacture are meant for export purposes. These are a formal way of tax avoidance. Here in Kenya, companies are given a 10-year tax break initially. Then after that 10 years, they are given, they are charged a corporate tax rate of 25%, which is lower than the general corporate tax rate on the market. And there also is no withholding tax which is charged.
So you could say that this is, in a way, a tax haven on a very small scale?
Yes, a government-initiated tax haven.
Wouldn't you like a tax holiday yourself? Thousands are available, and they come in all shapes and sizes. In Africa, but also in your local business park. But do these promises of development and employment have any real effect?
You remember those? From VAT, from goods and services that are manufactured. Now we also get income from customs and excise.